Hello and welcome to the Going Virtual webinar series, where we deep dive into the complex world of virtual events and meetings. By now, most people have been part of some kind of virtual event, Zoom meeting, live DJ show, conference, company update, or possibly just a really fun afternoon on house party. There are so many varying options in the virtual world, and we hope to unclutter the mess and reduce the stress of hosting in the digital space. Never before have I ever heard the saying Zoom fatigue. I guess, along with all the other 2020 buzzwords out there, it's a sign that we need to start paying attention. So what is Zoom fatigue? Zoom fatigue refers to the mental exhaustion associated with online conferencing. In other words, simply, it's boredom. People are getting over seeing low quality production of people's bedrooms, lounge rooms and home offices. Low quality internet producing poor quality streams are less and less tolerated. And like any good Netflix show, capturing the audience's attention and keeping them engaged is absolute paramount. Now, with restrictions starting to lift, you may wonder, how long is this online obsession going to last? Honestly, I think it's here to stay. Maybe not at this current rate, but certainly in some capacity, and a lot more than pre-COVID. So let's keep learning, developing, and make the most out of this experience. Today, we're discussing why an MC is as important as it's always been, quite possibly even more. To discuss this further today, we have a very special guest. He's an MC, a keynote speaker, a comedian, and has worked with global brands such as Dell, Qantas, Bayer, and a 3-time host of TEDx Sydney. He is Sam McCool. Sam, thank you so much for coming today, taking time out of your day.
Well, I had nothing better to do, Libby, and if I could help you do this, I'm happy to do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I guess that's what we're all talking about today. Like, how do we make time for all of our listeners out there and people to teach them all the skills that we have.
Hopefully viewers too, because it's not a podcast, is it? So,
yeah, that's so true. I mean, like, they could be listening though.
You could just listen.
Turn the video off.
They've probably already turned the video off watching us.
Should have dressed differently.
I
I've
have dressed differently.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you've been an MC for a really long time.
Yes.
And a comedian and a performer, basically.
Yes.
So, you know, what do you love about the MC role, I guess, from the live event perspective?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because I came up as a stand-up comedian, and as a comedian, you enjoy being on stage and performing and engaging with an audience. An MC role is a kind of a different shift because there's a different structure to it, and the role is not about you as a performer, it's about you facilitating a role to make an event run smoothly and run better and keeping people engaged and stuff. So for me, what I really enjoy about it is working with different clients, understanding what those clients do, what their audience is about, so the people in the room, let's say, and also what the event is for, you know, because it can be anything from like an awards night celebrating a gala dinner, it could be a 2-day conference, it could be all sorts of things. So I find it very educational for myself, but I also enjoy working with other people on stage because you get to see so many different speakers, keynote speakers, the CEOs, all sorts of people who can speak, people who can't speak, in between. So it's really engaging. It's really interesting to see that sort of dynamic play out on a big event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have actually seen you work before on a few different events, and I have to say that every time that I've seen you work, you just put in absolutely so much preparation and so much engagement into an event. It's just really been fantastic to see you on show before.
Well, you've seen me backstage, haven't you?
Yeah.
Writing and rewriting and sort of going, oh no, I think that's going to work better. I better change that. Let me do this, because I think the key to a successful event, whether you're an MC or whether you're doing what you guys do with the AV side, let's say, is preparation, first of all. But second of all, you also have to be able to go with the flow. And if things change, as they always do in live events, you need to be able to adapt to that and go with a different game plan. So I think the MC role gives you both of those. If you don't prepare, you come across that way. And if you over prepare and aren't willing to be flexible and change, then it doesn't work either. So you have to be able to do both.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I must say, I'm actually really enjoying this whole hosting the host situation here.
Yeah,
you know, does it feel a bit weird? You know,
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking the questions. I've got to come up with an answer. Yeah. No, but I enjoy it though. You're doing a great job, buddy.
Oh, thanks so much. So, you know, obviously,
I read that on the auto cue.
Oh, did you? Fantastic. I told him to say that.
Yeah. That's right.
So our wonderful friend COVID, right,
Yes.
has completely flipped the events world upside down.
Yes.
How do you feel about the virtual space?
Oh, about the virtual space, or I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
about COVID.
I mean, we all hate COVID, right? You know, that's
I hope so.
yeah.
The virtual space is it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, really? I mean, it is the future. The thing that everybody's saying is the coronavirus crisis has kind of fast-tracked the future. Like, we were kind of going that way anyway. People were already doing webinars. Some people were already doing virtual events or live events. I know I've been a virtual MC before. But it was really kind of on the edges, on the periphery, and the sort of status quo is to do live events, right? Now we're forced to do online events. We're forced to engage in a different way, but we're seeing the pitfalls of that. And I think there's going to be benefits to both, right? But personally, I've got to be honest, I'm getting that Zoom fatigue you spoke about. I've been on a few of them that other people are running, and I won't name names, but honestly, I think everyone's just finding their way, but really, it doesn't take long to lose interest.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I must say, there's been a few times that I've been logged onto an event and turned off my video and put myself on mute and got to
That's
cook
all
dinner and and it's just such a hard thing, right? 'Cause
Right.
these are professional people wanting to put their brand out there or engage these customers, and it's a really difficult thing to do, and they need that ROI and they need to have that engagement. But it's a little bit noticeable if you get up and walk outside of a conference room, but no one really knows whether you're watching or not when you're
I'm always
at home.
watching any room I can see. As comedians, we're trained to watch any movement and everything else, so you pick up on stuff all the time. But I guess if you're presenting to people at home, you can't really enforce that's kind of social etiquette, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you can't stop someone from going to the bathroom, or if their kid has spilled something in the background, because quite often these are out of hours anyway, right? And you're dealing with different time zones as well. So, just because it might be middle of the day for them, it's not for you. So for me, like, I was asked to do an interview recently from a comedy club in Cape Town. I just performed there live in February, and one of the comedians wanted to do this kind of interview about COVID and the restrictions and things. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. And we went back and forth. And then finally we realized that 7 o'clock in the evening his time is 3 in the morning my time. And after all that, you realize, well, it's just not going to work. So you've got to deal with those factors. Whereas in a live event, you're all there in the same place at the same time. It's the same time zone, and you're focused for that sort of day or half day or whatever you're doing, So
it really, it is really difficult, that sort of time zone element, I guess, where it can come in some pre-records or that side of things kind of elevates.
I'm a big fan of pre-records.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
That's right. This is only our first attempt, but
But do you think that even with those restrictions and those sort of elements to it, do you think that businesses and brands can still get that good engagement and ROI if they do it well enough on the virtual space?
Yeah, 100%. And I think we've spoken about this sort of offline, is that the problem with the virtual space at the moment is they don't have what you have. They don't have this state-of-the-art, sound and lighting and everything else. So we're relying on a laptop camera or a phone camera. The phone cameras are generally pretty good, but you don't have the lighting. The audio is generally not as good. How many times do you have to see someone's wardrobe or, lighting fixtures or whatever else you're looking at in the background? It's just not engaging. If the sound quality is terrible, if the lighting is terrible, if people don't really understand camera technique, then you've got a very uninteresting show.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you seen, there's a few videos that you can watch on YouTube of hilarious Zoom fails? It's good for a good laugh, right? I'm glad they exist, but you don't want to end up on one of those videos.
Well, I hope not. But
well, maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, maybe if it goes viral, then I'll be on a Zoom fail, whatever. Yeah, for sure. But there's all that stuff, right? It's like a lot of this virtual stuff is kind of intruding on your everyday life. I think the traditional thing of you go to work and then you go to an event, it's sort of a break away from that, so you've got your focus on that event. But now it's kind of interweaved with our everyday life. It's hard to juggle that and be focused, and really I think the time span is limited. It's much less. You got to concentrate more into a shorter space of time because people just don't have the time to attend 7 Zoom sessions a day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So I guess the other point is when people are running these virtual events online, they're trying to do so much all at the same time. They're they want to host, they need to promote, run it technically, script, interact with each other all by themselves. And I think like in anything, once you try and do too much, how can you do anything well? You know, so when we're talking with our clients, we're always saying, you know, how do you want your customers to feel? You know, what's important? How do you keep their engagement? Now, like, I feel like one of the big things is having a virtual MC to keep things rolling and keep people on track. Now, it'd be really great to get your thoughts on why having a virtual MC is kind of more of a must, not a might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, first of all, because it keeps people like me employed, that's very important. But beyond that, I think the fact is, if you think about a news station that's reporting, and they've got reporters all over the world coming, if there's no anchor to hold that together, it's very kind of mismatched, and you know, and who are they talking to each other? You know, you've got to have that central focus, right? And I think that's the role of the MC there. But introductions are crucial. You know, it's really important to introduce people properly, to give them the esteem and the respect and the recognition that their career entails. Like when you're introducing somebody as a speaker, you're summing up maybe a 20 or 30 or 40-year career in 3 sentences. You've got to do that with the respect and that it deserves. But then also, yeah, like you say, you've got to be able to segue from one topic to another. I always, when I'm emceeing, I'm always listening to the speaker before, because I'm trying to draw information from that speaker to link it into what the next speaker's saying. So there's actually, you know, a running plot line or you know, some kind of connection. Otherwise, it's a very disjointed event. And I think there's even more so in a virtual space because, you know, it's generally not as scripted and it's maybe not as well thought out as a live event at the moment. And so it can be very disjointed. And I've been on a few where you've got somebody playing the harp and then somebody dancing and somebody doing something else. Randomness is great, but you know, you need to be able to tie it back together. I've also seen things where you've got MCs reading somebody's bio, and this is one of my pet peeves as an MC, is that they'll read a bio that's written for a website, which might be 3 paragraphs long and contains way too much information. So really bullet point it, keep it succinct, keep it upbeat, and keep that energy up. And I think that's what virtual events need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is quite frustrating when you're listening to far too much. I think online, everything almost needs to be faster, you know, like as you're talking about, you did bullet points and kind of get to the point really quickly.
Get to the point.
Yeah, and the other thing that you raised earlier today was around keeping, like respecting people's time and making sure that you kind of keep to the agenda. And man, you know, you're talking. There's some times that things just go on and on and on.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing worse than even at a live event of seeing a speaker that goes way over the time allocated, and they don't always think about the fact. If you think about a live event, right? If it's a full day event, you'll have maybe a morning tea break, a lunch break. These are all timed and structured. People put a lot of thought into the timings and how long this speaker should speak for and what have you. Now, when you're doing a Zoom event or an online event, if you're not putting that thought in, then first of all, it's all over the place and disjointed. But also you've got to think about the fact that people are going to need those breaks. And, you know, you just need to respect people's time. You need to be able to get to the point and move on and give someone else a chance to do the talking.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess one of the things in a live event space is that sometimes things go wrong with technology, and
Never.
You need, I know, right? Like,
Never.
you know, it's always in our control.
Not
in our
Libby.
events,
No,
of course not. But sometimes things go wrong. Now, virtually, we have the added issues and pressures of internet connections that you have absolutely no control over. So people dialing in potentially from overseas or they're
or anywhere in a Telstra/Optus operated area.
Yeah, absolutely. Or dialing in from my house.
NBN. Yeah, that's right.
It's terrible. And when those things happen, they're out of your control. But it's how you deal with them in a virtual space is what's going to keep people online and engaged. Now, having someone that's an MC, someone that's professional, understands the brand, understands the way the event's going to work, and be able to regain the attention of the audience when things like that happen. It's so important.
Yeah, look, it's about regaining the attention and filling in the space, but it's also about monitoring what's happening in the chat, you know, because you have an opportunity with an online space to have much more interaction. You know, people can raise their virtual hand, they can comment on the side. And I've seen people do it well, and I've seen people not do it well. And if you can manage that really well, then you can have a really engaged, audience, because you're actually acknowledging what the chat is saying, what's happening there. You're sort of listening to what's been spoken there, segueing it into what's happening on the chat, answering their questions there, bringing it back into, and then it becomes a coherent event. Otherwise, as I've witnessed with a few of my friends, is you can have 30 or 40 people on a Zoom and everybody's doing their own thing, and some people are being smart Alex over here writing funny comments and other people asking serious questions, and it's all going. So if you've got someone who can actually really focus it, pay attention to what's going on there and what's being said there and bring it all together, then people will pay attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess one of the benefits of having an online event is that you can actually decide what questions you actually bring to life as well. Where in live space you can't really do that.
I want to bring the mute button into the physical space. Just mute people as you go around.
This guy looks like he's going to say something silly.
That's right. Me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mute Sam. Yeah.
I guess the other thing is about keeping the energy levels up. I guess when you look at those virtual events and those virtual meetings, people tend to really start off with like this gusto, like this is what's happening, but not having that energy back from a room is really difficult.
Yep.
So having someone professional to just kind of keep the energy up, make Q&As really engaging as well. So a lot of people that might have on-stage experience and can read the room now are doing Q&As in a virtual space. Harder to keep that flow going.
Well, it isn't, because the thing is, in a live event, you don't necessarily know everybody's name. On a Zoom event, you know everybody's name, and when people comment or post or answer a question, you can see who it is. And using people's names is one of the most powerful ways of engaging them, right? So as soon as you're doing that, we've got a question here from Cassandra. I don't know who Cassandra is. I just, but she's listening, and when people know that you're actually dealing with them on a personal level, the attention span comes up, right? So I think there's some opportunity there to do that. And in terms of energy level as well, I mean, I think probably a lot of people need coaching on that, but also, I've seen people stand up and deliver, which I think is a much better way. Obviously not on a set like this, but they'll be in their home and they're standing up and delivering. It gives way more energy to what they're saying. Using the space, using the screen properly, that is your stage. So being able to be effective on that. There's a lot of techniques, that you can probably do to enhance the delivery and keep energy up.
Yeah, awesome. But I really want to talk now about hybrid. So if Zoom fatigue is the word of 2020, I'm going to have to say that hybrid is going to be 2021. Now, even with restrictions lifting at a government level, corporations may not follow so quickly. Plus, we also have that additional level of travel restrictions, time, and simply the opportunity to reach more people with an online solution. Hybrid really is the best of both worlds, I think. And believe me, I can't wait to get back into the room with people, but it's not for everybody. People don't always have the time. And ROI is such a really important thing for brands. Now, being able to not only reach the people that they were able to reach previously, but actually extend their audience base is only going to add to that experience. But the old way of streaming, I don't think is going to cut it anymore. I feel like before what we used to do is point a camera at a stage and show people what they were missing out on. I feel like now we're going to have to really step it up and think about how do we make everybody online feel just as engaged and important as the people there in the room.
Yep. Yeah. Look, I think to add to that, you're 100% right. It's about making the online experience more like a television show, more like a set where it's actually much more structured. You can use close-ups, you can cut angles and do all the things that you're not getting when you just point a camera. I think the whole Toyota Prius sort of style of approach to the event space may be the way of the future because, like you say, I mean, I love travel. I love to go to an event in Fiji or I was supposed to be in Vietnam last month or in Korea last year or whatever. That's a huge benefit to doing live events. However, I've also seen the cost factor of bringing all those people over to an event space and the time, factor. So I agree with you. I think that from a cost perspective, most companies are going to look at how do we either do a virtual event or a hybrid event. Mixing the two is going to be very tricky to start with, but absolutely you can't just point a camera and expect people to be engaged, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that people with your experience understanding live and virtual at the same time are going to be really highly sought after.
Right.
Because
I hope so.
Yeah,
Should
well,
I up my fee?
Yeah,
We'll add a zero.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Double
that's
it.
right, exactly.
I'll take a commission. No.
That's it. Well, the other thing is we can also do more events, because if you can just go to one studio like this and do 3 or 4 different events in a day or whatever, you know, we can do more events. We're not doing the travel, you know, having to book hotels and flights and things like that, which means you can afford that increased budget, you know, so it works well. Yeah, it works well in both ways.
And I think being able to understand things like camera angles, understand the technology behind the virtual space, being able to work with either live scripting or in-ears, being able to engage the people that are at home, adding in their questions and sort of talking to them and making them feel part of the event.
That's right. What do you think about that at home? We've got a question here from John in Parramatta. John says, something like that, right?
Absolutely. So that's exactly right. You know, and I just feel like it's so important to do whatever we can to give some of that magic of live events to the people that can't be there. Because, you know, I've worked in events for 20 years and this is my passion. I love it. I love going there. And it really, really hurts me to think that people are losing that experience at the moment. But yeah.
Look, I think the experience will come back. People will crave physical contact and being in the same room and pressing the flesh and all that. That it's not going to disappear entirely because we're human beings, right? But you know, it's like a cyborg. It's like you got to merge technology with the human experience, and then you get the better result, right? So, I mean, I think you know probably VR and AR and all those things will start coming more and more into play, where you might be at a live event, but you can actually use augmented reality or that kind of thing and actually give people that experience. Or even at home, you know, they might be able to watch things on their tablet or their phone or their computer screen and interact with what's happening, you know, live. So I just think there's so much more potential, and we're really at the early stages of it. But I think the quicker people embrace doing that kind of hybrid event, they'll find more interesting spaces and interesting ways of doing it that's going to engage people more.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of comes out of this, because the events people are so unbelievably creative, and they just have this ability to be able to bring to work with anything. I mean, if you think about an industry that was completely cut at the knees, and what's come out of that already, what's another year going to add to it, and really what kind of results are people going to get out of that?
Yeah. Plus there's, you know, on the technology space, there's all sorts of new platforms coming out all the time. You know, other companies, the platforms are challenging Zoom and doing things better or differently and much more creatively and things like that. And then there'll be niche products for certain industries and things. So I think there's a lot more to happen in that space. But I don't think we're going to get rid of the human experience. You know, if you and I were talking virtually right now, it wouldn't quite be the same.
No, it wasn't. I really like having someone here with me. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's right. I'm happy I can stay. This is better than my place, so I'll just...
And talking about different platforms that are doing really cool things, everyone is actually watching from our custom platform at home at the moment. So
is that right?
At work, hopefully some people are back
hello
at work.
at home on the custom platform. How's it working out for you? Feel free to write something below and I'll... there we go. We've got someone. Oh, this is great. Excellent. I love the custom platform. That's great.
That's great, isn't it? Fantastic. Excellent. We're getting, you know, all ticks all around.
That's it.
I guess, you know, the big thing is, and the thing that I've learnt today talking to you, is that the whole McCool virtual and hybrid space, it's here to stay. We need professionals. We've got to respect everybody's time. We want, you know, having an McCool shows your customers, shows your viewers that you respect them, that you're professional, and that all you want to do is make sure that they're engaged, they're connecting with your brand, and you know, that's really what it's all about.
That's right. I mean, look, if you're doing virtual events, there's a lot of costs you're already cutting out, so don't skimp on the things that are going to make the event better. And if most of your people aren't professional speakers, then at least have one person who can make or break it, you know, and hold it all together and drive home the messages that you want to drive home. Because at the end of the day, if you are meeting, you're meeting for a reason, and most of the time it's communication or education. So you need to get that across. Yeah,
awesome. You know, we're so lucky that you came in to join us today out of your very busy schedule. I know you're meant to be, you know, away on a gig at the moment.
Yes.
You know,
we can't talk about the past life that we used to have.
We're just talking about the future, looking forward,
future, yes.
And all the opportunities that exist for everybody. Now, I'm sure there's lots of people that might want to get in touch with you. So we're going to send out your details.
Okay.
They can have a chat to you about, what else that needs to happen.
Make sure you mention AV 24/7, so I know what you're calling about, right?
Yeah, and you'll double the price.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
Not
you heard?
AVO. I think if you go AVO, I'll think it's something else entirely. So go with AV. Yeah, 24/7.
AV 24/7.
Yeah, mention Libby, and you'll get a good rate.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Really look forward to working with you on so many more hybrid and virtual and hopefully live events as well. So thanks so much for coming in, and we'll catch up really soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Libby.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.